Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
All praises, glory, and honor be to the power of this universe. Thanking him for such a peaceful day, his love, his kindness, and his mercy. Let us join our voices to sing the song Of Thy Wondrous Works We'll Tell on page 10 in our Sidorim. Let us tell of the wondrous works of our King and our Creator, Jehovah. The heavens declare it, the glory is thine, the earth and its beauty shows honor divine. Our Yah, the Creator of everything, to thee we lift up our voices and we will sing of the might of the Yah. He maketh darkness light, all war and song. Of thy wondrous works we'll tell, and when we do forsake, we cry unto thee, for lo, and thou hearest, thy mercies we see. Thou sendest thine angel to show us the way. To thee we send down our praises when we pray. Sing of the might of the He maketh darkness light, war and calm. Of thy wondrous works we'll tell. Sing of the might of the Yah, yes, I the Yah of Israel. He maketh darkness light, war and calm. Of thy wondrous Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Truly it is a good thing to tell of the great works of Yah, our power and our Creator. This time we have our psalm service, which gives you all, individuals, a chance to just stand up, give thanks to Yah, and even testify on Yah's hand in your life, and speak of his greatness in your life, and just thank him and show him your gratitude, your appreciation, what he continues to do for you, as well as for each and every one of us. For the 79th Psalm, we're going to ask Misharet Yaakov to read the 79th Psalm for us. The 121st Psalm, we're going to ask Akot Magdiel. The 124th Psalm, Bikor El Yafeh. For the 148th Psalm, we're going to ask our sister Cohane. So Y'all for having her here. I'm pretty sure she knew she was going to be doing something. Can't just have you come up in here and not call on you to say a word or two. We thank y'all for bringing you here. It was beautiful just to see you walk through the doors. The Most High is awesome and He is great, keeping us all safe and well where we are in our homes, away from one another, and He blesses us and gives us an opportunity to see one another at times. And it is good to know that we're all well and in good health and strength. Let us welcome Mishare Yaakov to read for us the Saturday night song. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
It's a blessing to have so many people come in. We had our beautiful holy season, and I hope that we can do more of what we did, where we had something every day. Because as you see, as we finish our holy season, the holidays start ramping up, and it's good to have good memories for our families to dwell on of what we do for the Creator. For the 79th Psalm, a Psalm of Asaph. O Elohim, the heathen are come into thine inheritance. They defiled thy holy temple. They have made Jerusalem into heaps.
They have given the dead bodies of thy servants to be food unto the fowls of the heavens. The flesh of thy holy ones unto the beasts of the earth.
They have shed their blood like water around Jerusalem with none to bury them.
We have become a taunт to our neighbors, a scorn and derision to them that are round about us.
How long, O Yah, wilt thou be angry forever? How long wilt thy jealousy burn like fire?
Pour out thy wrath upon the nations that know thee not, and upon the kingdoms that call not upon thy name.
For they have devoured Yaakov and laid waste his habitation.
Remember not against us the iniquities of our forefathers. Let thy compassion speedily come to meet us, for we are brought very low.
Help us, O Elohim of our salvation, for the sake of the glory of thy name, and deliver us, and forgive our sins, for thy name's sake.
Wherefore should the nations say, where is their power? Let the avenging of thy servants' blood that is shed be made known among the nations in our sight.
Let the groaning of the prisoner come before thee, according to the greatness of thy power, set free those that are appointed to death.
And render unto our neighbors sevenfold into their bosom their reproach wherewith their reproach to thee, O Yah.
So that we, that are thy people, and the flock of thy pasture, will give thee thanks forever. We will tell of thy praise to all generations. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Let us welcome our coach Eliel to read for us the 121st Psalm. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Shalom, shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Today, for allowing all of us to be able to be here, to end a wonderful holy season, for us all to see each other on this wonderful Shabbat day. Today, for allowing my family to go to and from flying to New York and back, and to arrive safely and to meet everything the way that we left it. Happy that my Ima is doing well, and that it was time, and that Zabdiel was able to return with me this time. She's doing much better, so it's time for him to come back and get into the swing of things and get back into school and all that good stuff. I really appreciated that he could travel and be amongst brothers of like minds in New York while he's away from me, to know that there are people that are there to support and keep an eye on him. And we did receive a wonderful message, actually. It was for Saul. I thought he would have been here today, from the leader of the congregation in Philly, Rabbi Bowen, I believe is his name. We did visit there the Shabbat between the holy season, between the feasts, and they were very happy to see us, very welcoming, and they sent their love. And he told me to give Sarah a message, so I'll definitely have to call and tell him, since I didn't see him today. And so yeah, for all things and everything, for the Most High being gracious, for the Most High protecting all of us, being with us, and allowing us to partake in his holy season, in this year even special because we all were doing it together. So I was able to travel and be able to go somewhere, and everybody's, all it just happened to end that way. So that was wonderful. Okay, so I've been entrusted to read Psalm 121, hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
I turn my eyes to the mountains, from whence will my help come?
My help cometh from Jehovah, who made heaven and earth.
He will not let your foot give way, your guardian. It reads a little different here, sorry. Yeah, I don't have my glasses on though. Let's see how this goes. Okay. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber.
Behold, he that keepeth Israel doth neither slumber nor sleep.
Jehovah is thy keeper. Jehovah is thy shade upon thy right hand.
The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night.
Jehovah shall keep thee from all evil. He shall keep thy soul.
Jehovah shall guard thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and forever.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah for all things and everything.
Hallelujah.
This time, let us call on the Eliel faith.
Mike Man. Mike Man. Shabbat Shalom.
All praises to the Most High. If it had not been Jehovah who was for us, let Israel not say.
If it had not been Jehovah who was for us, when men rose up against us,
Then they had swallowed us up alive when their wrath was kindled against us.
then the waters had overwhelmed us, the stream had gone over our souls.
When the proud waters had gone over our soul.
Blessed be Jehovah, who has not given us as a prey to their teeth.
Our souls escaped as a bird out of the snare of the fowls. The snare is broken and we are escaped.
Our help is in the name of Jehovah, who made heaven and earth.
Grateful for life and food, clothes, and shelter. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Let us at this time welcome a quota now to read for us the 148th Psalm.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
All honor and praise to the Creator. Thankful for my life and the lives of my family, the lives of my family, and the lives of all of you. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Praise you, Jehovah, from the heavens. Praise him from the heights.
Praise him, all his angels. Praise him, all his hosts.
Praise ye him, sun and moon. Praise him, all ye stars of light.
Praise him, ye heavens of heavens, and ye waters that are above the heavens.
Let them praise the name of Jehovah, for he commanded, and they were created.
He hath also established them forever and ever. He hath made a decree which shall not be transgressed.
Praise Jehovah from the earth, ye sea monsters and all beasts.
Fire and hail, snow and vapor, stormy wind fulfilling his word.
Mountains and all hills, fruitful trees and all cedars.
Beasts and all cattle, creeping things and winged fowl.
Kings of the earth and all peoples, princes and all judges of the earth.
Both young men and maidens, old men and children.
Let them praise the name of Jehovah, his name alone is exalted. His glory is above the earth and heaven.
And he hath lifted up a horn for his people, a praise for all his holy ones, even for the children of Israel, a people near unto him. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Again, Torah for my life, allow me to be here today. And I pray there's supposed to be some inclement weather tomorrow, so I pray that I am able to travel home safely.
Giving thanks to all of the psalmists, thanking Yah for each and every one of you, your lives, and allowing you to be able to be here to read a psalm and just express your gratitude to the creator and maker of heaven and earth. It's amazing how you never really notice things, and now this is one of the first times I really listened to you and looked down at the book. She sounds just like Dora. I was like, why is it Dora reading this song? But she got the voice. Yibby started to look just like her. So all of them they all have little things, but it's amazing how children get so much from their parents, and it's the hand of the creator, because the Most High can just have, as Maury mentioned, those genes, and it's amazing how in creation what the creator can do with just one gene, just have it passed down from parent to children, and they just all have different traits and different personality traits and things from their parents. And the Most High, this power is awesome that we have. He is awesome. Blessed be his name. Maury? You want to do a song? Can, exactly. And Maureen get an opportunity to read a song.
Hallelujah.
Sing a song.
Shabbat Shalom Lechem.
Shabbat Shalom.
I'd like to say this song on behalf of Ima Nednivia that made transition this morning. This was an elder that every day religiously she would send me messages, Boker Tov, Toda for another day of life. I was able to visit her when I was last in Guyana, and I think she was, I don't want to use the word afraid of dying, but she was not ready to go. She wanted to recover. You know, people were not sure of what the illness was. And this is one of the elders, you know, coming into the way of life. She, you know, she used to take care of me a lot. She was very hardworking. One of the things she suffered, she had to wear a neck brace because she damaged the tissues in her neck. If anyone knows, back in the days in Guyana when there was an embargo in the country and certain things were banned, she would be one of those that would go to like Suriname and different countries in the surrounding areas to get like produce to bring back. So she would fetch bags on her back, on her shoulders, on her head. So, you know, it messed up her body in the later life. But she was very vibrant in the community. She used to sing a lot, dance a lot. She was known for energy. But when I saw her the past few months when I was there, totally different person, lost a lot of weight. And you know, she, when I speak to her on a daily basis, or sometimes I miss her call, but when I speak to her, she'd always say, you know, it's inclement weather, and when it's rainy, like her body would hurt, or something like that. So this morning, as usual, she sent, you know, the message Shabbat Shalom. But I didn't see it until like 8:30 something, and I responded Shabbat Shalom. And then somebody later told me that she made transition. So like from 7 to 8:30 something, I don't know what happened, you know. So it's just amazing, you know, that in that short space of time, you know, everything could just totally change. And I pray that the Most High causes her spirit to return to be a servant once again in the earth. May Yah comfort her family and keep them, and even all the family in Guyana is affected by it, because she was truly a strong and an elder and an important part of the community there. I don't know her favorite song, but I'll say mine. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Not unto us, O Yehovah, not unto us, but unto thy name give glory, for thy mercy and for thy truth's sake.
Where is thou that power?
But our power is in the heavens. Whatsoever pleaseth him, he hath done.
Their eyes are silver and gold, the works of men's hands.
Ye have mouths, but they speak not. Eyes have they, but they see not.
They have ears, but they hear not. Noses have they, but they smell not.
They have hands, but they handle not. Feet have they, but they walk not. Neither speak they with their throat.
They that make them shall be like unto them, yea, everyone that trusteth in them.
O Israel, trust thou in Jehovah. He is their help and their shield.
O house of Aharon, trust ye in Jehovah. He is their help and their shield.
Ye that fear Jehovah, trust in Jehovah. He is their help and their shield.
Jehovah hath been mindful of us.
He will bless the house of Israel. He will bless the house of Aharon.
He will bless them that fear Jehovah, both small and great.
Jehovah increase you more and more, you and your children.
Blessed be ye of Jehovah, who made heaven and earth.
The heavens are the heavens of Jehovah, but the earth hath he given to the children of men.
The dead praise not Jehovah, neither any that go down into silence.
But we will bless Jehovah from this time forth and forever. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. It was a blessing while I was there. One of the things she was known for is making dal puri. Everyone knows her dal puri himself. And she taught her daughter-in-law to do it. So while I was there, I was able to get 2 of them. You know, I didn't know it would be the last time, you know, that she'd be able to do that for me. But I'm thankful that I knew her and I was able to see her for that last time. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Giving thanks to Morey for just considering that and that thought. When I saw her message and I heard the news myself, it was surprising. It was surprising, and it's amazing how someone can be ill, and no matter what doctors they go to, the doctors just cannot figure out what was wrong with her. They could not figure out. They didn't know what was her illness. And everyone isn't fortunate enough to be able to travel to different countries to get treatment. She wasn't able to travel. She was just there, sitting in a place hoping to get better, and without any way or anyone that could diagnose her and say, well, this is your situation. And she made transition with that same illness, whatever it was. But I know the community there is she's definitely gonna be on a lot of people's hearts and in their minds. May the Creator give the family their strength and comfort during this time. May He remember them. May He remember her immediate family, as well as anyone else who's mourning her passing. Even Imaya Kara in Tennessee, she's been on my mind. You know, I was listening to one of my songs on my CD, one that she loved, and she would always ask me to say it whenever I'm there. And the last time we went to her conference, she asked me to sing it, and it just always reminds me of her. And the Creator is just great in His way. We must keep them in our prayers, because the family there, she was everything for that family. If anyone who know and who's been there to visit, all the young daughters, the women with children, they all lined up for counseling from her. Called her throughout the night, throughout the day for counseling, for advice, for everything. She was like their rock. She was everything for them. And that moved me more than anything, because in my mind, I'm concerned about them, wondering what would happen there to the community in general. And only the Creator can keep them in this way. Sometimes people lose their way when they don't have any guide or any shepherd. She was their shepherd. And may the Creator touch them, move the families there to find their way, to continue in this way of life, to stay strong and trusting in Him, because she was the one who guided the people to Yah. And you can only pray that the Most High keep them in this way and keep them connected to Him in whatever way. This is really why it's important for each and every one of us to build and develop your own connection and relationship with the Creator. Because people leave this earth. We're not here forever. Just as Moshe had to make transition at some point, and the people had to be prepared to move on without him and understand that the Creator's name still has to be praised. He still has to be worshipped. He still has to be glorified. And we have to continue doing so, even when we lose loved ones or someone who may be a mentor or a guide or a help for you. You still have to pray to Yah, trust in Him, and continue to praise and glorify His name. This time, if you would, do Yah the honor of standing, and let us sing a few songs to just give praises to the Holy One of Israel, give thanks to Him on this Shabbat day, and acknowledge Him and show Him that we're thankful, we're grateful for His mercy, His love, and His kindness this Shabbat day. Let us sing Baruch Hashem to just bless the name of Yah. And Yah is the one that's given us food to eat, bread and water. Truly, He is great and He is awesome. Can I get some? Baruch Hashem, Shel Yahovah. Baruch Hashem. Come on, Shel Yahovah. Baruch Hashem, Shel Yahovah. Baruch Hashem, Shel Yahovah. Blessed be the name of 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 Yahovah. He gives us bread and our water too. He gives us bread and our water too. He gives us bread, Jehovah gives us bread and our water too. Baruch Hashem, El Yahuwah. Baruch Hashem, El Yahuwah. Baruch Hashem, El Yahuwah. Baruch Hashem, El Yahuwah. Wake up in the morning, I got to praise Him. When I wake up in the morning, I keep my hands to the face. Oh yes, I do. Oh, I say, oh, so great. I got to praise His name. I just can't say. Oh, I see. Oh, I see. Oh, wake up in the morning, I got to praise God's name. When I wake up in the morning, I keep my kisses to the face. Oh yes, I do. Now I can say, oh, so great. I got to praise His name. I just can't say. Now I can see, now I can see. Oh, yeah. Baruch Hashem, El Yahuwah. Baruch Hashem, El Yahuwah. Baruch Hashem, El Yahuwah. Baruch Hashem, El Yahuwah. Amen. I woke up this morning with my mind on Jehovah. I woke up this morning with my mind on Jehovah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Everybody, let's praise Jehovah. Everybody, let's praise Jehovah. Everybody, let's praise Jehovah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Come on, Israel, glorify Jehovah. Come on, Israel, glorify Jehovah. Come on, Israel, glorify Jehovah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I will serve Yah. I will serve Yah with all my soul. I will serve Yah with all my soul. I will serve Yah with all my soul. Hallelujah. You may be seated. It is a good thing to give praise unto the power of this universe. Praise and glorify the name of the Most High God. At this time, we're going to have a question and answer period. This gives us an opportunity. If anyone has anything on their mind, you just put up your hand and ask any question. We only ask that in case of a controversy, the last word, the final word is here at the Mizriach or between these men here, not because we know more, but because we must have some form of order in the house of the Creator, Maker of heaven and earth. May the Creator, Maker of heaven and earth strengthen each and every one of us in His path and give us understanding so that we are able to give you an answer to your question. And if we're unable to do so, we will research and find out and see how and where we can get an answer for you. This time, the question and answer period is officially open. If anyone has any questions, this is the time to do so. Hopefully, you were writing down any questions that you may have had concerning the portion today. If not concerning the portion, it can be about anything else. Look for Tanakh fell on the floor. You have a question, your father?
All praise to the Most High. I don't know that this question well, I know it doesn't have a set answer, but it's more so to get people's opinions. I know that the secret things belong to the Most High, so we don't always understand everything that's written. But one thing I noticed with Enoch, I never really, I guess, understood what that meant as far as just walking with the Most High. But my question is more so about what his family and friends thought happened to him. Like, did he just disappear? That's I guess the part that I'm a little confused about. So I just wanted feedback on what people thought about it.
Anyone has any thoughts on it? I have my own speculation.
Just like
As Eliel said, because that's pretty much what we'll all be doing. To speculate, since it never says anything other than he walked with Yah. And we can only give what our interpretation is walk with Yah means. And the Creator took him, like they said, for he was not, but the Creator took him. Most High took him off the face of this earth. I believe that people in those days, they had a different understanding and they knew what happened to him. They understood it because I believe that people were much closer to the Creator and had a higher level of spirituality than we do today. So they saw probably his way of life. Knew that he may have been someone who was always in the mountains or isolated himself and meditating, and people probably went to him for advice and things like that, and they just saw his life and was like, he don't need to be here, he's different, you know. So when the Creator took him, it was probably understood. People were like, yeah, we always knew he was somebody special. You know, he wasn't like us today in the world. And if you can recall, around that time, the world started changing, meaning men in the world started changing the way we lived. And I believe, I had this discussion with someone else at some point in time. I believe that there are different people that the Creator take them out of this earth during different times, and he just don't want them there around humanity based on what's going on. And it may not have been because because he was doing anything bad or evil, or people today. We always see death as a bad thing, but sometimes it's the Creator moving that spirit for his own reason. Because he doesn't want them there. He feels like, you know, they reached a place in their life, and spiritually, where I'm going to call this spirit back for a different purpose. And it may be, these are just my thoughts, it may be a graduation to some degree, to graduate from this form of life to a higher level of life. He may have been given life to function amongst the Creator's host on a whole nother level, to where he's no longer functioning on a level of human flesh, but he's now functioning and living on a spiritual level as one of the Creator's personal malachim, or one of his personal soldiers. Who knows? That's just a different thought, you know, because as Moray truly rightfully mentioned, there is a creation beyond what we know here today. And that creation isn't mentioned in Beresheet. There's a creation of, they never speak of the creation of water, which was there when the Spirit of Yah hovered over it. They never spoke of how the Creator created spirits, Ruchot, to put in you and I. They never spoke of a creation of Yah's angels or his malachim. These creations weren't mentioned in this book, but we know that these things were created. And we're only aware of this creation here, the creation of mankind, and what we know exists in this earth today. And I believe that's just a different thought. Let's get Eva first, and then we're gonna. Is you the same along the same? We'll let Moray question go first, because it's along the same lines. Then we're gonna answer your question.
I got it before you. Shabbat shalom lekem.
Shabbat shalom lekem.
Okay. The Tanakh basically races or squeezes information into a tube because of its reaching to goal, the nation of Israel.
Yes.
So it just basically mentions here and there certain things.
Exactly.
But if you look at, there's a book, the book of Enoch, and it reads very high level in terms of Enoch had questions. So the Most High would take him up and show him, the angels would basically show him the workings of things. How's the sun come up in the morning? Which angel is controlling the winds? And he was really into the high level stuff. So how can a man function on earth being privy to that? Somebody is like stealing, like, you know, it's like, so the Most High just took him up. He's one of the only people that Yah took like that. He didn't suffer the physical death to our knowledge. Moshe was like that, Elijah as well. But that was a question you asked, like how his family felt. You know, I think they were probably accustomed to him going off on long periods of time, because he did just go off many times when you read the book. But I don't know how his family felt. Of course, they would miss him in the eventuality, but they did know that Elohim took him. That was the thing. It wasn't a mystery, like, where did he now go? He probably said a goodbye to them. It's time for me to leave this realm, or, you know. All speculation, but the Most High did show him a lot, and I don't think he could have lived on the earth anymore. I mean, I get trouble living here. But that was it.
Another thought, just think about sort of What Zachary is going to be next? Is it the same question, Zachary?
It's
Along the same question. But think about a grown-up hanging out with a bunch of kids and listening to their conversations. You'll get tired of listening. You're like, listen, I can't sit around these kids too long. Because their conversations are not on your level. And eventually you just want to leave that type of setting. You want to be somewhere where grown-ups are that can relate to you and the type of conversations that you would want to hold. So that's the thought, Zachary.
Yeah, well, the thought that I have is that, after Adam knew his wife again, and he says, and to Seth was born a son, and he called his name Enosh. Then began men to call upon the name of Yah. So now all of these men that he mentions in this genealogy, all of those men were like men who called upon the Most High. That's how you get to Noah and Shem, Ham, and Yafet, because of all of these men right here. Now remember, these men had other children. These men had other children, but these particular men are the ones that the Most High wants you to understand that those men were calling upon the Most High, Enoch being one of them.
Anyone else question along these? We're taking questions along this same line. Anyone else with questions on this same? Okay, next we're going to take Amy. Shona, she was next. Then we had Makiel and who else?
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Now, I think that this question was answered years ago, but I just can't remember. There was a tale, I don't know how true it is, about the fallen angel, right? Have you heard about this news of the fallen angel? And now, is this Satan? Is this Nakash? And if it was not Nakash, where did he come from? How did he get there? And how is this tale true? This is like a universal tale. I mean, people talk about it all the time, that there was an angel that God threw from heaven. I just want someone's opinion on it. Okay?
In Isaiah, the 14th chapter, at the 12th verse. How art thou fallen from heaven, O day star, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, that this cast lots over the nations?
Shalom. Actually, my Eladim had the same question, and we were going to get to it at dinner last night, but we never crossed that topic. So Isaiah 14, where that comes from, if you go to the beginning, verse 1, this is a poem against the king of Babylon, if I'm not mistaken. And then in Ezekiel 28, which is a similar kind of picture of someone falling from the heavens, the context is the king of Babylon, specifically a vision about Nebuchadnezzar. While we were in exile, basically we had two prophets that looked at whoever was in power is feeling high and mighty and wealthy and in control of everything. You can enslave, you can kill. And that imagery, to be honest, was picked up in the Christian church in the book of Revelation because they don't understand the details of our history. It just became, well, Satan was that high and mighty person who was taken out of power. Because if JC is a savior, what is he saving you from? He's got to have someone to save you from, because obviously he's not saving you from captivity, he's not saving you from anything you can test. And so it's saving you from him. And so that's where that imagery comes from. But there are ways that you can interpret Nachash in a lot of ways. In fact, the next chapter, it's sin crouching at the door. So the idea of sin itself, or as he later on says with Noah, this inclination in man's heart to do wrong, that's more of how we see it in the Torah, like this tendency for you to do wrong and to dialogue with yourself. But we know that the Creator can create evil. He can create punishment. He can create blessing. So he's not at war with anyone over that, at least, again, directly. You can speculate otherwise.
Another thought along the same lines is, remember as I just mentioned, we know that there are angels or malachim that function on another level beyond what we are aware of. And when, if you can remember in Genesis 28, it mentioned, 28:12, it mentioned Yaakov dreaming of angels ascending and descending from heaven. This was something real that the Creator was showing him through a vision in his dream, that I have servants functioning on another level that are going up and down, from going to heaven and coming to the earth, that are helping you and doing things that you're unaware of. And these wars in heaven are mentioned in many places by a lot of different people who studied different documents or what have you, and different forms of writings, which mention wars that took place years ago in heaven. If you can recall, I mentioned earlier, and Maury mentioned as well, there's a creation that we're not aware of. That creation of the angels, we're not aware of. They don't mention that creation here in this Tanakh. Right. We're just given the creation of man and the vegetation and all the things that we know of on earth. But as it relates to the heavens and the heavens of heavens, those creations weren't mentioned here. And so this man, Nakash, who just appears in a garden, it never mentions his creation on that level. Outside of that, the only other creation that we're aware of, that's not mentioned here are the Malachim and the angels. And we're aware of the battle that took place in heaven, and through different scriptures like we just read of that fallen angel that the Creator cast down to function or live on earth because he betrayed the Creator in that cause. And so really, when you consider and you put together all the different information that we have and that we're aware of, that's all we can relate to, and that's all we can label this being Nakash as. Outside of that, there isn't any definite information that we have. One thing we do know is that he had a purpose and a cause there in that garden. And his purpose and cause was to plant his seed in the earth. Right. Because he wanted to have some offspring that could carry out his name and his purpose in the earth. One thing Ushmaratia mentioned in the Haftorah was there are two forces that are vying for the souls of men. One is good and there is evil. And if you're not functioning and you're not for the Creator, then you're against him. Nakash was the first energy that presented itself to be against the Creator at that time. And so he was labeled as the adversary, if you want to put it that way, the major adversary, that force that presented itself for the first time in humanity and creation that was anti-Yah. And with that knowledge now, he created an offspring that's quote-unquote anti-Yah, that's carrying out his purpose to be against the will of the Most High. And so therefore, this is where we get the notion and the thought of the devil or the adversary and the angel or those who represent the Creator. And with that in mind, we today live with that concept of an adversarial spirit and a spirit that is for the Creator. And our objective as Israelites is not to be that adversary, not to be that force or energy that's going against the Creator and maker of heaven and earth. We have to realize that we're not trying to get caught up on, who created or formed the Nakash, as the Maftir rightfully mentioned. There's a lot of information here that can be presented in this book of Genesis, and if Moray would have went too into depth, we would have went way beyond the time frame that you all have for lunch, plus you would have had a lot more questions than that one question that you have here. We can give you so many different concepts as to where Nakash may have come from, but it's all what? Speculation. And we can speculate all we like, but the truth is what's written here in this book. And what do we gather from the information that's been given to us here in this book? We don't want to be that adversary that's going against the will of the Most High. We want to be for the Most High. Moray had his hand.
Shabbat Shalom Lekem Otpa. Fallen angels. The the word Nephilim, people say it comes from the word Nafal, to fall. And it speaks about our fallen host. I mean, I read a lot of things, but the Israelite community, the camera's on, shoot. The Israelite community is taking Israelite knowledge through the eyes of Christianity.
Okay.
And we are not ready many times for true Israelite information. There was, I think it was Elisha or Elijah, axe head fell into the water and he's able to make it float up. I mean, what is that? You know? When it comes to the Nephilim, how I understand it from my personal studies is that there was confusion amongst the hosts of the Most High. And there was a struggle. And there was a host of them that was thrown out. So when you see in the garden there were trees that were good for food, whatever, that was basically the good angels giving Adam and Eve information. If you study throughout civilizations, you would find that, like, let's look at Sumer, you could look at Arcadia, you could look at all of these ancient civilizations. You would see that these men one time were holding plows, raising crops, and the next day they were building major cities. And in every single one of those civilizations, they would speak about these giants or these gods coming to teach them. You could do the research. And we know that these beings were these Nephilim, these fallen ones. So you had Yah's host teaching Adam and Eve and their offspring, but as well, you had these beings teaching these other civilizations things that were good, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So you find, even today, people are saying that the technology that we're using, you understand? Because I was talking to an elder while I was installing a service for him, and he was saying it's amazing that, you know, a few years ago, he said, like, when he's 77, he was 15 years of age, that's when they got an inside toilet. And he was marveling at the speed in which, right now, look at how stuff is moving. You understand? So even in our civilization, generations after us going to look and say, look how from 1900s to 2000, look what happened. It's a whole lot of stuff came. Where's the information coming from? So there's people are saying that it's coming from still these beings. Just throwing that out there. You know, people don't like to touch on these topics. People might say speculation, whatever, but throughout civilization, there's been a lapse of time that men were farmers, walking in mud. Next 10 years, they had paved roads and other things that was going on. So they were beings teaching man over the period of time, even up to today. You could go back to civilizations that you go throughout Central America, South America, Mexico, pyramids all over the place. Who taught them to build that? Recently we were in Egypt. I don't want to say, man didn't build that to me. I mean, it is no foundation, just sits on the sand. It doesn't sink in the sand. It's just ridiculous. So there are beings that do help man from time to time that we may call fallen beings, angels. When it comes to Nakash was an upright being that had the spirit of adversity to the Creator. Christianity has caused us to feel that Satan is like a being, like a man with a pitchfork, red suit situation. It's a spirit that goes against good. There is good, and there is the adversary to good. Nakash at that time was the adversary to good. In our day and time, we have Donald Trump, you see, so...
Yes.
You understand? That is just a person that spirit is in. That influence is in. That thought process is in. It's not a being like running around. There he is, but it's that spirit that goes against what is good. And look for the word for critic in Hebrew. It comes from the word Satan. You understand? It's somebody that's against. That is why in the book of Job, you had the sons of God came up, and who was with them? Satan. So it's not like not Nakash, but it's that spirit that was against good. You see the difference? Yeah.
Another thought to add to what Maureen mentioned, Dora, you next. What?
I just wanted to mention that here,
One year, Sean Mikael taught the portion, and it was a good, it was enlightening for me, because the way that he explained it was that, he, in all of the creating that he had done, it was things that would just do whatever, they were created to do. They had no free will. But when he created man, he wanted someone that would create him by choice. They would choose, he would want them to choose. The only way you're going to know that it's a choice is if you have that adversary there. That it's to test. And that's why it got in the earth. He meant for it to be in the earth. He bought it, it's his creation. He put it in the garden. He wanted it in the earth. And it got in the earth in a way that it didn't just test those at that time, but it tests men throughout. Even today. Up to today. And because it's a seed. And so it reproduces. And in every generation, in all our lives, we have this test. And so you have this choice that you have to always continually men have to make to choose Yah. You have to choose Yah. And even for the seed of Nakash, there's a choice for them as well. Absolutely. Their inclination may be to do evil, but they can choose Yah. They can do that.
I have a different question. She has a different question. Roy Tago, you have a question along the same line?
I don't have a question, I just wanted to ask you.
Okay.
About
Shalom. And just to enforce what you were saying, we can look at it like this. The Most High knows us better than we know ourselves. And He knows we have a lack of ability to make decisions and sometimes lack of discipline. The Creator gave us in this day and time, at that time He gave them the knowledge of good and evil, and He told them do not deal with it because you're not going to be able to make decisions. Today we have the same knowledge of good and evil, and that's the computer. That's the source of the knowledge of good and evil. Think of it, there's one source, but it's a knowledge of good and evil. You can use it for good, and at the same time, you can use it for evil.
Right.
We lack the ability to be able to just use it just for good. And the Creator knew that. That's why He told us, don't mess with the knowledge of good and evil. Because it can, when we have a tendency, when we on that line, we usually fall off or we make a bad decision. And that's the same thing that happened there. So we can't play around with things that is on both sides of the fence. Evil always comes as it's good and evil. But there's nothing that's good and evil. If you understand it. It's only good or what? Evil. So when it came to us the first time, it said the knowledge of good and evil, we knew Yah already told you, don't mess with it. Leave it alone. And that's the same thing that we have a problem with today. Yes, that thing is going on with us from generation to generation. And it's not stopped. So we have to continue to use that Beresheet as our guideline. That Beresheet is for the guideline for man to be able to make decisions against the adversary. Hallelujah. Any questions along the same topic? We have Javier Magdio. You have a different question,
I have two, and one you may choose. I'm sorry, Shabbat Shalom. You may want to table till next time. The first one had to do with what was being discussed today. So what I'm trying to understand, because all of you, I've been listening to the point of view that this portion is taught from for the past few years. And one part that I'm trying to understand is if Eve partook of the fruit, and I get that the fruit is not the fruit, which is the way it's being explained. So what I'm trying to understand is if she partook of the fruit and she, quote unquote, convinced Adam to partake of the fruit, what did Adam partake of? That's my first question. And the second one, which I say, if you don't have time, I was just curious, I keep meaning to ask Hanukkah. Is the reason that I've noticed this community doesn't necessarily celebrate Hanukkah? Is it because you don't want to deal with something that's so close to seeming like Christmas? Or is there another reason that I should know of why we don't really indulge in it? I'm just saying, I've never seen it done, and I'm wondering if there's a concrete reason, or if it's just, and I understand the point of not having that confusion with the children, and it's not commanded, so I get it. It's one thing we just put to the side, so I just want
No, I had a comment. Shalom again. I understand both your questions, but I want to give someone else a chance to answer. But I just feel that there's a lot of children in the room. So when we start answering some of these questions, especially the first question, it might go over their heads. So I just kind of want to, just make sure we consider them as well. Okay?
Okay, do we have anyone that want to give their opinion concerning some of the questions that the Beresheet Let's take the Beresheet. Do you have a question on the same?
It's a different one.
All right, you're next for the second question.
First of all, Shabbat Shalom. He doesn't know how to use the language, But she ate of the fruit. You see, it's an act. She did an act. And she introduced the act to her husband. That was it.
I understand that, but if the act, so the act had nothing to do with the serpent, or whatever you're calling it.
No, because he introduced her to his, and she introduced it to her husband.
If he introduced her to the act,
she was involved in the act as well.
Nakash and Kawa were involved in the act, and then she
went to her husband.
She gave the act to the husband. She introduced
it.
it. Yes.
Let me speak about it.
You understand?
For the sake of the Yeladim, this is how I'm going to put it. Go ahead. No, I don't want to. All right, time sheet. We're going to separate them for a minute. I'm going to let the Yeladim go out for a minute.
We're going to speak about Halloween.
Can someone speak to them about Halloween?
Speak to them about Halloween. Go ahead.
Eliel was going to do that.
I want to speak about the Capricorn.
Anyone else?
Now, concerning do we have anyone else, any parents? Do you see anyone else here that you want to have out there? This I don't know. I says it's okay to me.
No, it's good. You get to know what they're having.
What we have to understand is, see, the Beresheet, sometimes we find ourselves thinking, when we read the story or this history, we get caught up in the thought of this being consuming a fruit. We have to take that completely out of our minds. This was an act of cohabitation that took place. When it mentions Eve giving of the fruit and taking of it herself, she was involved in the act herself. Somebody can give this act to someone else, and they can be involved and take of this act, if you understand what I mean, as well. You get it now? Now she get it. It registered, but she was like, I didn't want to go that deep into it, but she got it. That's the point. So this act is what we're talking about. So when it says, and she gave of it unto her husband, she, after being introduced to this thought, somebody can perform or know of it, somebody can perform an act or have the ability to perform an act without knowing of it. The serpent introduced knowledge of this act to her. Then she took part of it, if you understand. She got herself involved in it with the serpent. Then with this knowledge, she went to Adam and said, hey, check this out. This is what this is about. Look what I can do. Bang. Showed him a few tricks here and there. And he said, wow, I didn't know about that. Now he was involved in the act. She gets it now. That's plain enough. That's plain enough, I believe. I see her shake her head. She's like, I get it. You went a little too far, Cohane. But she had to get the point. Cohane. Cohen shake me.
Shalom, okay. So,
Before you, Gilbert Naima also asked Kashitali to ask before, because I'm sure you can explain to. She said, did it have anything to do with it being her time of the month, why it was considered?
okay.
She asked.
Let me just explain. Shabbat shalom. See, this Beresheet can go as deep as you want to. We can go as deep as you want. But we're trying to keep it as simple as possible because we don't want to confuse anyone. That's not our job. That's not our responsibility. Our responsibility is to teach it in the most simplest way. The thing to remember, if you remember or you recall in Exodus, the 33rd chapter, I believe it was, or 34th chapter, where Moshe said to the Creator, show me thy ways.
Show me that.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Show me thy glory. Mm-hmm.
Show me thy glory. Creator showed him the past, the present. He didn't see the future because no one wants to see their future.
Mm-hmm.
So it was metaphor. What I'm getting at is metaphors, a lot of metaphor. Because we were an agrarian people, you're going to hear things like fruit,
Mm-hmm.
seed.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Those type of words. Those are typical words for an agrarian people. So when Moshe, it is believed that Moshe was writing this story. He's getting it from the Creator. He's writing it to his understanding, according to his understanding of how he understands it in an agrarian tone. And so he's using words like fruit. You saw no mention of an apple in the chapter.
Mm-mm.
So it's no fruit. So as Cohen said, it's an act. And then when you really think about it, the next chapter, you see all these children.
Right. And you put them in between his
From an apple? From a fruit? You understand? Where did all these children come from? How did they come? It's the same old thing that happens today.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same act. And we have to remind ourselves, the Creator said, let everything be get after his own kind. Now, because she was in that particular state, that's why the Creator said, listen, I don't want you to take of that particular tree. She was speaking about herself. And the serpent in Nakash, he knew that. But as it was said earlier, he wanted to get his seed in the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So she was going through certain changes, you understand? She had to finish going through certain changes. But because the act was done before that particular change was completed, there was confusion.
Mm-hmm.
So she's impregnated. I'm just being real about it. She's pregnant with the Adamic seed and the Satanic seed.
Satanic seed. Right.
Then, if you remember, she had the children.
Mm-hmm.
She said,
I got a man.
I got a man child with the help of the Lord.
Right.
Because she didn't know what she was going to have.
That's right.
After dealing with that.
Mm-hmm. Her eyes.
Again, you don't get children from fruit, eating an apple, anything. It was an act.
Mm-hmm.
And then, calmly, she said, and his brother Abel was born.
Mm-hmm.
So those two represented, one represented the Adamic seed,
Mm-hmm.
one represented the Satanic seed. Then, if you remember,
You put enmity.
he kept Adam away from Eve.
Mm-hmm.
It was about 130 years, if I'm correct. Why? Because she had to finish that process of her body, because now she has to go through the complete, so that will never happen again the way it happened. That's why he was placed outside of the garden, so that she can finish completing whatever makeup the Creator wanted for her particular body. So that, because it said, if you remember, he said, because then the man would go back and do it again. You know? He said, no, let me do something to her body, make it complete, so that now our beautiful women, you know what goes on. Every month, this is what had to be done. Things had to be completed. This is the type of stuff that the Creator wanted her to complete first before she indulged in this act that Cohen Eliel was talking about.
This thought that Cohen Shaitnia is mentioning, many times we read the Tanakh and we're not even aware of the way our forefathers spoke as an agrarian people, but it's right through this book. You look at Psalms 92, verse 13, 15. It speaks of, it says, the righteous shall flourish like a palm tree. He shall grow like the cedar in Lebanon. Psalms 1 verse 3. He shall be like a tree planted by the streams of water. Many places in this Tanakh speak of us and refer to us growing like a tree, living, being like trees. It compares us to this, speaks of seed, because this is the way our forefathers spoke. Today you hear somebody come to you and, where goest thou? Look at you. Where you going? What's up? That's the language today. But then, that was the language then. And Moshe spoke in his language when he wrote this book. And so this is the reason why we're reading it like this. But I wouldn't want to hear it explained or written, a book like this written by somebody today. We definitely have to send the children out of the room today, because you're not going to be hearing nothing about no apples and stuff. And parents will want to know, well, why are they reading such a book in its place of worship? But guess what? It just goes to show the language of our forefathers, how they thought. This is something for us to really think on a higher level as well, because if they spoke like this and thought like this, where is our mind today? How do we explain ourselves or express ourselves in word when we speak, when we communicate with one another? Do we consider this? And we always say word sounds power, language is everything. What you say is important. We have to consider this even when breaking down this portion and giving this thought of our people being an agrarian people and how they spoke or the way they presented themselves was completely different as opposed to the way it's done today. I believe we had Dora at the back, Dora Cynthia at the back, Dora Alicia. Hold on, Dora Alicia was first, but she had her hand up for a while. Then we also had the Beresheet Afternoon. We're going to change the topic. Okay, it's on Dora.
Yeah. Boy, a lot of stuff came, and bear with me, my thoughts are a little muddled from so many. But I start with what Yivy said, the secret things belong to the Most High. For many years, when Cohane first went into law, I spent a lot of time doing all kind of research. And I did come to the understanding that you're not going to get every answer that you want, but certain things make sense. And one of them was people never had children from eating an apple. So if I use that logic and just try to, during my studies, read with some understanding from that position, even though I never understood it, the secret thing, it still gave me a base. What I'm finding, I also like what Moray said, because it's that whole Christianity that you'll see them with the apple and, you know, that whole image. But when you really do your research, even sitting here back here today, they all are saying, in the Hebraic way of life, this is suggesting an axe, not an apple. So it's very easy to get some of those answers that you want. Also, because this morning, bear with me please, I kept thinking about Cain when he went off. I'm like, well, who was out there? Who was he with? But I'm thinking that, oh, we live 60, 70 years. I forgot people live for 800, 900 years, and that they're having children in their hundreds and 200. So it makes sense that even though he was an older man, no doubt, he could have married into his own family many years later. Am I right? So, okay, I'm just trying to get an understanding. The last thing I want to say, I've heard people say, oh, that's the seed of the devil. Doesn't matter what seed it was, my understanding is everybody died in the flood. Am I right? So that wipes it out. So if there's a seed of a devil, it had to come after the flood. Am I right? However you want to think of that seed. I'm just saying there was nobody left from Cain's line. Anyway, I don't want to confuse anything, so whoever speaks after me can clarify that. My last point, I was outside and I heard Ishmael Seer say something I've always thought, that the Most High created all the souls at the same time. So we know, we can't even begin to think back to what those souls were, but we know there's a bunch of billions of people living in the world right now. So my question or my thought really is that all those evil people that live, the soul had to, I always believe, the Most High puts it back into the earth. So is all this evilness we're seeing, these generations of evil souls back in the earth, or are we really choosing, like Shoshana said, and making the choice to be evil on our own in a new life? So I remarked for your time.
Dora had a lot of information that she put out there. We have to, one, I want to consider the fact that we wanted to finish off the thought that was here first. We didn't have any more questions on that, did we? Okay, because the Beresheet was going to go next on the next thought. But just to answer Dora's question, one, concerning as it relates to something that you mentioned that everyone was sort of muttering about as it relates to the flood came, Toda. We have to remember that the spirit, the genealogy of Cain was through Japheth, the Japhetic seed. And so after the flood, this is how his genealogy continued through Japheth or Japheth. And so with that being said, we have to also understand that there is no quote unquote, we have this thought of the devil and angels. We have to take that out of our mind. There is no quote unquote devil. There's an adversary. An adversarial spirit or ruach can be on anyone. It can be on an Israelite. It can be on someone of a different nationality. It can be on anyone. The Creator said his house is going to be a house of prayer for all peoples. And so someone who may be from the seed of Japheth today can come before the Creator and change, like the Creator told Cain. You can change. He said, sin coucheth at the door, but you have the power to rule over it. If Cain would have said, listen, my father was such and such, but I don't want to be that. Just because he was this way doesn't mean I have to be this way. I choose to be different. He would have received a blessing just like any other man. Like the Creator said, today his house is going to be a house of prayer for all peoples. Humanity is going to be given an opportunity through us sharing this knowledge of Yah to them. All humanity will be given an opportunity to serve and praise the Creator and do right, or live by righteous morals and principles. And if they choose not to, then they'll label themselves as the spirit of adversary or anti-Yah, if we want to use that term as well. And so this is the thought that we have to apply today as Israelites. This is the Hebraic thought. There is no devil, for say. There is an adversarial spirit, an anti-Yah spirit. And we can take on that very same ruach as well if we turn or function against Yah or do anything that's against the will of the Creator and what his plan has been laid out to be. Her next question was, what was it?
I was just curious.
Yes, we didn't even touch that.
Yeah, what our stance, I'm sorry.
Dora mentioned one other thing that I wanted to touch. Dora Elishaba. It was something else that she mentioned. She mentioned the seed. That was one, but she mentioned something after that. I can't quite remember. Yes, spirits returning to this earth. That's what it was. Something that Ushmaratia mentioned in his Maftia's portion. Evil spirits being sent back to perform Yah's will. It's possible. It's all speculation. We don't know. Just like what Ushmaratia mentioned, we can't say for certain that that's the case, but it is believed amongst Hebrew Israelites based on what we were taught by our leadership and our teachers before us, that the Creator, the Most High, created these spirits at one point, the point that's not mentioned here in this creation here, but we do know that the Creator placed that spirit within us. It's possible that the Creator does send evil spirits back here to do his will on that level. But we have to realize also that the adversary works for Yah as well. This is something that we fail to remember a lot of times. He works for the Creator. Like in Job, the Most High said when all the angels came, Satan, when Nakash was there too, Satan was there, Slika too. He was there right there. Y'all say, you doing your job? Yeah, I'm doing my job. He has a job in this earth to try us. To try us and see just how genuine we are, whether we're going to follow the will of Yah or be led astray. And in the book of Job, the Creator used Satan for that purpose. He said, listen, try Job. See just how real he is. See whether if you dangle these goods in front of him, he's going to turn away from me, like Yah does with us every day. I'm going to send this brother's weakness in front of him. She might be a pretty sister. Let's try him and see just how strong he is going to be to do what's right. Let me try this sister with her weakness. And this is what the Creator does in the earth. But we cannot fall into the thought of what Cohane mentioned, the way Christians think, and so many others who don't have this Hebraic mindset and thought pattern. We have to remember what the Creator is doing in this earth. This is how we're going to be able to stay focused and understand why and how things are happening today and know how to prevent ourselves from being caught up in this. There's no devil that's going to show up in front of you.
She had a question that we never answered about Hanukkah.
Ken, you want to touch on it? We forgot.
Sorry, just repeat the question for me again.
Oh, sorry. I was just curious about why the community, I've noticed we don't do any type of celebration when it comes to Hanukkah. And I was wondering, is it, I know some people's thought process is, it's not that anything is wrong with it, it's just that it has become so commercialized to be like another Xmas that's why we're not, or is there another reason that I don't know of that why we don't?
That would probably, Shabbat Shalom, that would probably be the reason, but I think last year we did something for Hanukkah, but here's the thing that we just want our children and all of the adults to understand what really happened during that time. Because Edom has a way of commercializing it. And it is, I mean, coming from a family, my father was very strict, okay? So we would read the book of the Maccabees, and he would explain it to us. But because it was so close to Xmas, like you said, because they have a Hanukkah bush, Christmas, they have a Christmas tree, and now they have a thing called Chrismukkah. I don't know if you heard about that. Look it up. So now when they commercialize it like that, it's like, you know what, we'll just read the book of the Maccabees, explain it, to understand. There was no vial oil, there was no dancing, there was none of that stuff. What are you talking about? So we have to be able to redefine what Hanukkah really means. It's not what they say it is. And I guess because of that, it kind of decreased, the celebration decreased because we just wanted to get the actual understanding of what it is. And a lot of Israelites are they're sticklers. Well, it's not listed in the book of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, you know. We celebrate our birthdays, it's not in Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. But the point is, we can do it if we want to, but we have to make it known that there's a specific standard and a definition to what it is in our way of life.
We have to create our standard or our format to it. One time, if I'm correct, Cohane, we brought the thought to him. I'm trying to remember exactly how he put it. I may be off a little or so, but to my knowledge, what I can remember, he sort of said, if we come up with our own way or form of celebrating it, that's fine. But we're not going to do what other people are doing today, what the Jews are doing today.
Right.
And he said, you all present something to me, show me what you all have, based on our history and what this is representing. Come up whether y'all want to have some plays or show or whatever. Come up with our way of observing or just celebrating it, like you would a birthday or what have you, and we can do it. And that was his story.
I just want to say one thing. See, Hanukkah, of course, it means dedication, right? And so it was the rededication of the temple. So I believe some of the sisters last year, they did a wonderful thing. They bought gifts every day for the temple, for the camp. So if we, like Cohane said, we can come up with our own standards and our own way of celebrating Hanukkah. And that was one of the ways that they bought gifts. Somebody might have bought a roll of paper towels for the camp or something to decorate the camp. That's how we do it, and that's what we have to do. And that's for a lot of these days. Even Purim, we can do that too. Even though it's not listed in Leviticus the 23rd chapter, we can come up, it's our history. And we can do whatever we want. We have the power to define.
We had Gavera Biafia. Do we have any more questions along this same topic?
Does that answer your question? Does that answer your question?
So let's take Gabebiafia's hand, because her hand was up a while ago and we were on a question and then moved a few times.
Shalom. Shabbat
Shalom, Lak.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Okay, my first question, I have two, only two. My first question is from our Hebrew scholars, our Hebrew language scholars. If you can, please translate chapter 1, verse 2. This is small, it's only a couple lines.
Where's this?
Genesis chapter 1, verse 2.
From darkness covered over the
Right, and can you translate that in English?
darkness covered on the face of the deep.
Oh, I can read it.
Is there like a question about it?
Well, yeah, I just want to know what it says, because we talked about the translating of Hebrew into English. It can't quite be translated, so I just got curious when it comes to talking about unformed and void and darkness upon the face of the deep. So I want to know, in Hebrew, does it say that?
Does it say what?
Unformed and void and darkness upon the face of the deep. That's verse 2, chapter 1, verse 2.
Let me go through it.
You know, I'm gonna let you, I mean, I have my interpretation of this. This is
It was unformed and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep.
I know what it says in English, but just like it has been spoken from the Mizbeach before, when they,
So that you'll know exactly what it's saying.
Well, basically what it's saying is, it says, "Waha'aretz haita tohu uvohu, v'koshet al pnei techom, v'ruach Elohim merachefet al pnei hamayim." Basically, what I understand that to mean, Maureen, you had the slide. So basically, at that particular time, there was a lot of confusion going on, chaos and confusion. You understand? The waters, you know, as they said, was unformed and void in English, but that's not really the interpretation. It was just confusion, chaos, because this is the beginning of the creation of the earth. So the Most High had to kind of put things in order. It was disorderly, it was disorganized. That's basically what he's saying, chaos and confusion. That's all. Now anybody else can add to that, but that's basically what it is. If y'all had to, like you said, separate the waters from the waters and do all these kind of things, that's all it is.
okay, I may not be asking the question correctly, so I'll just get with somebody who speaks Hebrew and.
Well,
It's pretty much just say, what did you read in English? That's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Okay, my next question then.
All right, we can go over it later if you.
My next question.
You have anything different?
Oh, is it related?
Is that to the first question?
Okay, I understand. It's translated the way it says it in English.
No.
So we can go to the next question.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see.
Okay. What I'd like to know is, based on this thing with global warming, can global warming potentially change Yah's order of the seasons? When things start, they're claiming that the ice caps and whatever else is going on in this melting, could that eventually or potentially change the seasons that Most High has put in place?
I believe, just to touch on that last question that you mentioned, I believe that's all the hand of the Creator. The way the seasons function today, sometimes things be on and off here or there a little. Sometimes we see like this year here, winter's coming in a lot later. To me at least, usually winter be coming in since around the ending of September, early October, the place start getting cold. The Creator might bring it in a little, fall, sneaker. I call all of that winter. Once it drops below 70 degrees, Maureen and I have a
It's winter.
below 75 is winter. 75, 70, that's winter, Maureen. We start putting on our coats. Yeah, he and I have a joke. So the point is, this whole global warming thought, sometimes we find ourselves doing things in the earth that trigger off certain, that has adverse effects that's all a hand of the Creator. The Creator won't allow people to do things in this earth that can cause something that He don't want to do something else for later on in the future. So all of this global warming talk, when I see all that stuff, I never get worried. With all of this whole thought of, oh, you're damaging the ozone layer with all of this smoke. Yeah, that may be true, but I know that the Creator has a plan far beyond what we can understand. If all of that smoke going up there, the Creator has a way where He can cause all of that to disappear and not affect anything, the foolishness that man is doing today. We cannot affect the Creator's plan for this earth and what He's going to do, what He already has in motion. We're going to our actions are going to only add to what the Creator has in motion. And He's in control of it all. And there are things that we find ourselves overly worrying about, I should say.
Oh, well, I wasn't worried.
For me, I never allow those things to bother me. But this whole global warming thing, if we think that it's going to affect the climate or whatever happens, it's still the Creator's doing.
Does that answer the
Ms. Charette,
Does
that answer your question, Gabriel? Ms. Charette, you had something to say as well.
You have
to answer this question.
You have your Bible app up. Shalom. This actually relates to both, interestingly, because tohu and bohu is used in the by Moshe as well as the prophet Jeremiah. Tohu, if you look in Ha'azino, chapter 32, verse 10. Deuteronomy 32, verse 10. 32:10. You go here. He found him in a desert land. Hebrew poetry uses parallelism, so the same word is going to be defined in lots of ways. So, in the land of the desert, uvatohu yelel yeshimon, and then tohu, the wilderness, howl. So, in a wasteland. So that gives us an idea of what the earth looked like. If you look at the moon, or Mars, or all these other planets, it looks like a wasteland, like a desert. The other interesting language visual is talking about the hand of the Creator on the environment, is Jeremiah chapter 4, and just look at 34, chapter 4, verse 24. 4:24, right? This is the prophet speaking in the first person, right? Excuse me, hold on. Go up a bit. Maybe it's 23. Yep. Right? I beheld the earth and lo, it was waste and void. It's the same vohu. The heavens, they had no light, meaning like there was too many clouds there. Right? So the mountains, they trembled. So there's like earthquakes, volcanoes, the hills moved to and fro. And behold, ein aha adam v'chodahu hashemayim nadadu. So, and then he said, all of this was because right here, mipenei Yehovah, at the presence of Yehovah, and mipenei Haron apo, and from before his fierce anger. In other words, that's the same kind of language of when Yah has put His hand fully on the earth. He's saying this is some of the stuff He's seen about why is Egypt all desert? Y'all actually got to see Egypt. How does a thriving civilization become howling wilderness and nothing? That he's like, I see this going to happen to certain countries, and that's what in that context he's talking about. Babylon is going to be the same thing. What is Iraq? It's a bunch of dust and sand, and Syria, it's a bunch of sand. Those were major New York cities and LAs of their day, and he's saying when the Creator changes the climate, it will be like it was in Beresheet, complete wasteland. So, to your point, the Creator warns us: if we pollute the earth, the heavens will be like brass, the earth will be like iron, and that's what we're seeing, like everyone said. So they're connected.
We had first Akikaria, then Cohane, then Alicia, then Akoda now. She's a guest, so she'll go with you.
I didn't have a question, I just had a follow-up.
Shabbat Shalom.
I got two questions. The first one is for Maury. you spoke today about protons, neutrons, and electrons, and you alluded them to be man and the Bible 666. How did you come up with the 6 in those numbers? And then my second question is Isaiah 42:16. This seemed very poetic to me. Can y'all please explain a little deeper?
Isaiah what?
Toda 42:16.
I'm already going to touch on the first one when I look through.
I plead the fifth.
Isaiah 52, 42, 16.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
You have my number, you could ask me this. But there are 6 of those elements represented in the atom, the 6 protons, neutrons, electrons. That's how it came up. All right?
Pull up Isaiah 42:16.
I was that? 42:16?
And I will bring the blind by a way that they knew not.
I can't read the line to see this.
It mentions in Isaiah 42:16, in order to get the full thought, you have to start from 42:1, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just summarize it, and then I'm going to go to 16. In Isaiah 42, you have to realize this is sort of like similar to a portion of consolation, you know, or a portion of really making Israel feel thoughtful, knowing what the Creator is going to do for us in a positive way. And it speaks of, it begins by saying, behold my servant, whom I uphold mine elect, in whom my soul delighted. I have put my spirit upon him, and he shall make right to go forth to the nations. That thought alone is what carries through this chapter here. What the Creator is using us to do. What we're going to do in this earth. The effect that we're going to have on a positive level. What we should be doing, as opposed to what we're doing today. In 3, it speaks of a bruised reed shall he not break, and the dimly burning wick shall he not quench, and he shall make the right to go forth according to truth. We're supposed to be that nation of priests. We're supposed to be the ones that are going to be teaching the earth about the Creator. When you read through this chapter, that's what it's speaking of. Giving different examples of what we're going to be doing in the earth when we stand for what is right and when we truly represent the Creator the way we should be. To fast forward and go down to 16, it continues in the same thought. It says, and I will bring the blind by a way which they knew not. In paths that they knew not will I lead them. I will make darkness light before them and rugged places plain. These things will I do, and I will not leave them undone. They shall be turned back greatly ashamed that trust in graven images, that say unto molten images, ye are our deities. This line could be speaking about Israel or anyone who were thinking anti-Yah, who were believing in idols, false deities, of any concepts that are against the concepts and thoughts that the Creator promotes in this earth based on his law and what he teaches us. The Creator saying, I'm going to bring the blind by a way that they knew not. I'm going to show them things that they weren't aware of. Wake up these people in a way that they weren't aware of. It could be us, spiritual awakening for us, Israel, or anyone who chooses the path of the Creator, it could be. In a path that they knew not, I will make darkness light before them. Whereas we were confused, we're going to be made aware of truth again. And that's basically what this chapter and this portion here is speaking about. You understand? We're going to take the hand of our Cohane. She was next, and then Akavisha after that. Shabbat Shalom.
In this portion of history, there are a lot of trees. We're talking about a lot of trees. Would Eve be considered both the tree of life and the tree of good and evil? Is she both trees?
Yeah, I have to. Yeah. I can try. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
This is the last time I'm doing that portion. Okay, the tree of life, how I know it, is Eve. The tree of knowledge of good and evil is the adversary.
Over there again.
Cohane, you said you got something. Does that answer your question? Yeah, Akav, should I add another question?
Shabbat Shalom. In my research and in my Hebrew studying, and even in my meditation, that's the most important part. In my meditation, this is my opinion about the Beresheet. When you hear that word Beresheet, it's pretty much dealing with the beginning of what we call creation. We have to all remember this. The book was written by a man. The man is not the creator. It's a lot of things in that book that was left out. A lot of things before the creation in the beginning, Moses didn't understand it on a certain level. He just understood it enough to, let's say, put it in the book. So now, in the beginning, the Creator said, He's creating the whole world. Everything that you could picture in your mind, which was time. When you get into the Adam and Eve, all that story, only thing that is the creation of choices. That's the beginning of choices. Rather you go, because before then, it wasn't really a right, it wasn't a wrong. The deep darkness, all of that before then, certain things the Creator said, your mind can't even picture it. So, but for your mind to start trying to wonder what happened before, it's only, I don't care what scholars, it's all speculation. Because nobody was there in that time. It was a man that wrote a book that was thousands of years, and guess what? You know how many different people put their hands on that book before then? So what we need to focus on, what we could deal with, what we could understand. We could understand time, what we're going to do with our time. We could understand choices, what we could do with our choices. The Beresheet, everything is there for us to look into to see how we could better our lives. Not to get into things that you can never get an answer for. So if you're trying to get an answer, you can keep trying, go into the Hebrew, into the Spanish, or whatever, but just keep it basic. The main basics is, hey, choices. Watch my choices in life. And that's what happened with the whole Adam and Eve story. Everything is based on choices and in the time that you do it. Real simple. That happened in meditation. I'll tell y'all later on how to do that.
I'll share something that Avishai just mentioned, a thought that myself and some of us were speaking about during a break. And I shared my thoughts with the brothers, and I said that, to me, something that Ushma Tia mentioned in the Haftorah that was so profound in what he said was the fact that we look at so many other things in this portion and try to decide what meant what, or why such and such spoke in this type of language and so many other things. And it's good, don't get me wrong, because it's questions. When people have questions and they're not clear, they ask them and they want to know. And these are questions that we ask quite often. But something that I believe we should take more out of this portion, Beresheet, and really start applying is the fact that there was a question that was posed to us by the Maftir, and it was one where he said, what decision or what side do we choose out of this whole thing? There were two forces there that existed. There was a force of good, which exists through Yah, and a force of evil, or an adversary. And in this whole thought, we should be asking ourselves, what am I going to do as a person to ward off this adversarial spirit that existed in the beginning of times? And it was our challenge, Eve and Adam's challenge, to choose right and ward off this spirit of adversary. And this spirit of adversary exists today. And it was there as our greatest test from the beginning of times. And that great test exists today. And we failed then, and throughout history, we've been on the failing side of this challenge. As a human being, as an Israelite, where do I place myself in this battle to ward off this negative energy and choose the path of right and good? And when I read this history in Genesis, and I see the path that Adam and Eve chose, and how the serpent was able to infiltrate Yah's plan in his own way, all being a plan of the Creator regardless, but it was a test for us, humanity at that time, to determine whether they would choose good or evil. We chose evil. And it's been our battle. It brought a curse on us then, and it's bringing curses on us today. When we choose the adversarial spirit, how do I today fortify myself to keep me aligned with the Creator in my own way? We all have different challenges that we're battling. One man's is different from the next. You have to fortify yourself with a system that's good for you, so that you could get a blessing for yourself and for your household. Because that adversarial spirit and energy exists today. It exists in your friends who try to tell you do something wrong. It exists in your co-workers. It exists in your own household. Sometimes it come in you. You understand me? We have to try our best. That's our battle. To ward it off, to fight it off, and try our best to stay on the side of Yah and doing good. And when I see this history and I read it, that's where I place myself every time. Wow, Adam and Eve failed. This is our battle today. Here we are again today fighting this same challenge. And it's good to ask these questions, but the bigger question is, what do we take from this? And it should be the fact that since the beginning of times, this here challenge has been there, and we have lost this battle time and time again. Where do you stand today? Where do I stand today? Am I losing this battle, or am I winning it? And that's where my mind is. That's where I run with it. Am I losing this battle against this adversary that exists today in my mind every day trying to lure me astray? How many rights do I do as opposed to the wrongs? That determines whether I'm winning or losing. That determines whether I'm on Yah's side or I'm on this adversary's side. And it's a battle. But this is where our minds have to be understanding. Whatever we grasp out of this, that's what we have to take more than anything. Going forward, we have to win this battle and not allow this adversarial spirit to beat us. We're going to close out at this time, giving thanks to everybody who gave their input, to our Yah for sharing such wisdom and blessing us with such information in our midst. May the Creator, Maker of heaven and earth, continue to allow the wisdom in this family to grow. We have so many individuals here that have questions, very good questions. It keeps us, Maureen, studying and preparing, knowing that we have to be prepared to help our people, to share information with our people that's going to help us. If you would, do Yah the honor of standing. Let us utter the words of the final prayer on page 11 in our Sidorim. May Yah bless each and every one of us, and may He place His Ruach upon us, so that we live these words and strive our best to walk in the right path and become true and upright servants of His. That is Yah. The prayers on page 11 in our Sidorim. Hallelujah. Sacrifices and meal offerings are not found in our hands. Father of mercy, yet thy law standeth firm. Accept the words of our lips and the murmurs of our hearts. Receive our prayers in mercy and in favor. Grant us joy and gladness. Comfort thy people. Yehovah answer thee in the day of trouble. The name of the power of Israel set thee up on high. Draw us not away, Yah, with the wicked, for our delight is in thy word. Let thy word heal us and cause us to prosper. Cause thy wisdom to blanket Israel. Let the visions of the righteous be our lot. Yea, even the dreams of thy redeemed, our good fortune. Draw us with cords of love, and let our borders be truth. Into thy hand I commit my spirit. All praise unto thee, O Yah. We have thought of thy loving kindness. We rejoice in the house of Yah. Come, behold the works of Yah, and rejoice in the same. For he has rescued his people Israel. He has called forth the first of Yaakov. He caused his righteousness to stand where calamity was. For such is our power forever and ever. He will be our God henceforth eternally. Sing his praises aloud. Hallelujah. Shema. Shema. Israel. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Yahweh, King of this universe, our love, our power, creator and maker of heaven and earth. We thank you, O Yah, for this peaceful Shabbat day that you allowed us to have. We thank you, Father, for the knowledge that you've placed in the midst of this community, for allowing us to be able to share our understanding and our thoughts of your law, our history, for allowing us to be able to sharpen one another in this path of right. We pray that you would keep us close as a family, that you would give each and every one of us strong thoughts and the great desire to do what is right and pleasing before you. That you would guide us, O Father, in the right path every day of our lives. That you would strengthen us in your law, O great King, and give us your understanding of your law and how we must live as a family. We pray, O Father, that you would remember so many that's been in our prayers that are mourning the loss of loved ones, that you would give them the comfort that their families need at this time. Our late, the very Nadivia, the family of Diana who are mourning her passing, give them strength during this time, O Father Yah. Remember the family of Imai Yakira and give them strength and comfort during this time. Where they are searching for answers, O Yah, give them answers. Where they are searching for guidance, give them guidance. Where they are searching for a leader, give them someone who will lead them to you, Almighty Yah. There are so many families, great King, that are mourning. Even our brother, the late Andrew, I feel, our friend. Give his family comfort and be merciful towards them. Remember, even the family of the late Chief of Chiefs, even his Isha, give her strength during this time. Remember, oh Father, so many that are mourning, great King, and during our time of joy and happiness when we are smiling, there are families that are crying, great King. We ask that you would give them comfort and strength. You, great King, give life, create laughter and joy. You take life, and you can give a family sorrow and sadness, but yet you can still strengthen us and give us once again laughter and happiness and peace of mind. We ask that you would do so for those families that are at this time down and sad and almost high. We pray that you would keep laughter amongst us and give us joy and peace. Give this family happiness and love. Remember us throughout this week to come and shield our families from the many dangers that exist out there in this earth. Life is truly precious, Only when we see one pass and hear of such things, many times do we begin to appreciate life. It is your hand in this earth, merciful Father, that is doing all things and everything. We pray that you would consider us, as small and as minute as we are. Consider us in your works, great King, and extend your mercy towards us. We pray that you would grant us forgiveness, O Father. Pardon our sins, all that we've done to anger thee, to offend thee, O Most High. Forgive us, please, O Father. Remember, great King, all the families and each and every one of us and all the communities that have ended this holy season in love and peace and happiness. Allow us to move forward with change in our minds, change to do right before you, change to become better individuals before you, change to serve and glorify your name in a greater manner, at a higher level. You are to be praised and glorified, O Most High. We live to serve you, O God. We live to glorify your name and all that we desire in life, the happiness and the many things that we choose to acquire and obtain. Your name is to be praised and glorified. We thank you, O Yah, for all things and everything. Truly you are great, and there is none beside you that deserves such greatness, such honor and glory. You are awesome, and blessed be your high and holy name, now and forevermore. We ask, O merciful Father, that you would even hear and accept this prayer as we bless your name, as we lift your name on high. We pray that you would accept this prayer in the Hebrew language as we join our voices to sing. Baruch Yehovah Baruch Baruch Yehovah B'Tzoharayim, Baruch Yehovah Be'erev, Baruch Yehovah B'Layla, Baruch Yehovah Yom Yom, Baruch Yehovah Tamid, Yehovah Eloheinu B'Vakosha, L'Shloach Lanu L'Kol Devarim Ra'im She'asinu Lefanecha Yom Yom, V'Lihyot Imanu Kol Halayla Hazeh, L'Ma'an Shemcha Yehovah, Elohei Abraham, Yitzchak, Israel, Elohei Avotenu Eli, Lishmo Arukolina, Intereseotka, Lema'an Shemcha Yehovah. Merciful Father, we pray that you would even accept this blessing on behalf of our people. Oh Heavenly Father, we pray that you would bless each and every family and individual here, according to the words of this blessing found in Numbers, the 6th chapter and the 24th verse. Yivarek ka Yehovah u'yishmerecha. Ya'ir Yehovah panayu eleka v'yikuneka. Yisa Yehovah panayu eleka v'yasem leka shalom. Yehovah will bless thee and keep thee. Yehovah will cause his face to shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. Yehovah will lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. Hallelujah! 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 Yochai! 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 Selah. 150th Psalm. Hallelujah! 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 Your kind! Your kind! Your kind! Hallelujah. You may be seated. We have a few announcements.